Let's see how we can check if an integer is even or odd in Python using Google Colab. First let's head to colab.research.google.com, which will open this window. On the bottom left side, we have plus, new notebook. Let's click on it to create a new Jupyter Python notebook in our Google Drive. We see that untitled 0.ipynb is created in our Google Drive. Let's rename this to check even or odd .ipynb. We have the code cell here. We want to give a heading, so we will click on the plus text to add a text cell. Let's move the cell up by clicking on this up arrow. Let's double-click and enter the heading. We want the user to input an integer, and then we want to check if the integer the user gave is an even or odd number. So the first task is to input an integer from the user. Heading, we will give as input an integer. Let's select the whole text by pressing the Ctrl+A keys on the keyboard simultaneously and make it bold by clicking on this B. We get the heading as input an integer. We can obtain the user input from the console by using the input function. Next we will store this value which the user inputs, in a variable. Let's say the variable is a, to which we will assign the integer value the user gave, so we will write equal to. Next we will use the input function. So input parenthesis, we can give a text to let the user know what we want the user to do, so we will write in quotes enter an integer colon. So now, if we run this by pressing the Ctrl and Enter keys from the keyboard simultaneously, we get the prompt, enter an integer, the same text we had given. Let's say we enter the number as 4. First, we want to check if a is actually assigned the number the user inputted, which is 4. Next we need to check the data type of the variable a. Let's add a code cell below this, by clicking this plus code. We will print a, and we will also print the type of the variable a. To get the data type of a variable, we can use the type function. So we will write type, in parenthesis, a, so this statement will print the value of a, and this statement will give us the type of a. Let's run this by pressing the Ctrl+Enter keys from the keyboard simultaneously. We see that a is actually assigned the value of 4, which is what the user inputted in the first code cell, and the data type of this variable, a, is actually string. Whenever the input function is used to obtain user input from the console, it returns the data as a string. Even if the data is a number, an integer, a float, it will return a string. We have to convert or typecast this string type to int. We can do that by using the int function, that is, we can give int before the input function. We will write int in parenthesis the input function. Now if we run this cell by clicking on this run button, we get the prompt, enter an integer. Now suppose we enter the integer as 4. Next if we run this code cell, we get the value of a as 4, which is what the user gave. and the data type is now int. Now we can check if the value the user gave is even or odd. Let's add a text cell below this by clicking on this plus text. We will give the heading as check. If user input is even or odd. Let's select the whole text by pressing the Ctrl+A keys from the keyboard simultaneously and make it bold by clicking on this B. Let's add a code cell below this by clicking on this plus code. We get the heading as check if user input is even or odd. A number is even if it is divisible by 2, that is, if we divide the number by 2 and get the remainder as 0. And the number is odd if it is not divisible by 2, that is, dividing the number by 2, we get the remainder as not 0. So, we can use an if-else statement to check if the user input is even or odd. We will write, if the condition is the value or the integer the user specified, which is a, divided by 2 gives a remainder 0. So to specify that, we can use the modulo function, which is denoted by the %sign. A modulo 2 will give us the remainder when a is divided by 2, this is equal to 0. If we give only 1 equal to, it will assign the value. We want to check for the condition, if a modulo 2 is equal to 0, so we'll have to give 2 equal to and then 0, that is if a modulo 2 equal to 0. Enter. Now, this indentation is very critical because if we do not give this and run this code, we will get an error. So if a modulo 2 is equal to 0, that means when we divide a by 2, the remainder is 0, that is, a is divisible by 2, so the number will be even. We will print the variable, which is a, is even, that is, a is even, or 4 is even for our case. So we will write in quotes as even full stop. And for the else case, we will write else, : that is if a modulo 2 is not equal to 0, the value is odd. We will copy this and paste it here. Again, here we see the indentation is critical. If we do not give this indentation, running the code will give an error. We will change even to odd, so a is odd in this case. Now, if we run this code cell by pressing the Ctrl+Enter keys from the keyboard simultaneously, we get 4 is even. Since 4 is divisible by 2, we have 4 is even. Now, let's say if we enter some other value, so if we run the first code cell again and instead of 4, we give the number as 3. If we run the second code cell to print a and the type of a, we see that the value is updated to 3 and the type is int. Next, if we run the third code cell, we get 3 is odd, because it will go to the else statement. With this, we have successfully learned how to input an integer from a user and how to check if it is an even or odd number. Thank you for your time. Please like, share, and subscribe if this video was useful.